What's poppin', everybody? It's your boy G watching Keeping This Tech. Today's Tuesday, so we're talking cameras, and today I'm finally doing a review on the A7S III. Now, this is not going to be your typical review. I'm not going to go over all the features and the specs and things like that, because honestly, at this point, we're 3 years, almost 4 years into the A7S III's life cycle. I think you by now know about this camera. Yeah, we're just going to talk about my experience with the camera so far and really what's happened since the camera has been launched. And spoiler for those of you who have to get on to the next thing, as Matt Johnson would say, I respect your time. The A7S III, in just 2 words to sum it up: tech demo. It was a tech demo, and I don't think any of us knew that at the time. Now, if you're interested in finding out why I'm saying that, then absolutely stick around and we'll talk about it a little bit more. But basically, the A7S III came out in the shadow of the Canon R5, which was doing 8K and had all this other stuff going on. A7S III was a very simple camera. It said, hey, listen, we're going to shoot 4K. We're going to do it up to 120 frames a second. It's going to be full frame, no pixel binning, full readout. And then you're going to have 10-bit, 422 color, you're gonna have upgraded S-Log and better color science. Brand new processing chips, the camera doesn't overheat, and there you go. Like, everybody went crazy over this camera. Now, it had a 12 megapixel camera, so it wasn't gonna be the best camera for shooting really high resolution shots, or a camera that you'd wanna have for, say, cropping and heavy editing. But to do what you needed to do in general, if you're not gonna be going all crazy with printing, A7S III was also a great photography camera too. Often underappreciated for photography, but it is a beast nonetheless when it comes to that capability. Not too long after, the FX3 was announced, and to be honest with you guys, it was the same camera except the bodies were different. There were really no additional functionalities other than what the body gave, right? So you had the tally lights, the quarter 20 thread, the cageless design, all that other stuff, and they took away the EVF. That was that. Now, it wasn't like a thing that I thought anything more of. FX6 came out, and that had the same sensor as the A7S III. Same sensor, same capability in low light, unbelievable dynamic range, S-Log, color science. Obviously, it's a cinema body, so you know there's other things that that camera had, but the heart of it was the A7S III. And now we fast forward to today, and the ZV E-1 has just been launched, and that has the same essence as the A7S III, same capability in terms of its sensor. Since all of this has happened, there have been multiple software updates for other cameras and new cameras that have been launched that have taken what Sony introduced initially with the A7S III and have expounded upon it. Like, I never felt like my A7S III was missing anything until 2 things occurred. Number one, the first thing that happened, I didn't realize what was going on. I upgraded my 35mm 1.8 to the GM 35mm 1.4. I got that from my A7R4 at the time. I loved the images I was getting out there. I put on my A7S III and started seeing all of this movement happening. Like, I'm like, well, what's going on? Just kind of moving back and forth as I would, move my head around. Turns out that was, focus breathing. That was a thing. And my camera lens combination, that was just what was going to happen. Sony released the A7 IV with focus breathing compensation, and I was like, oh, this is it. This is the problem that I have, and it's going to be solved as soon as Sony updates my A7S III, and surely they will. Because when the FX3 came out, it came out with cinetone. And honestly, not long after it was released, Sony said, hey, you guys are going to get cinetone on the A7S III. So having had that experience, I'm like, yo, there's no way Sony's not going to update the A7S III with focus breathing compensation. I mean, this is their video camera. Almost 2 years later, they have not done that at all. If FX3 has actually had big updates. Just more recently, they had like a new update giving it DCI 4K, just some other cool things that FX3 owners have been harping for a long time, and they have it. And there's still some things that they want that they are not getting just yet, but they got to sell another camera, right, in the future, so how else are they going to do that? The ZV E-1 just came out, has the same sensor, and it has all the features of the ZV cameras, but also the autofocus technology and chip on the A7R Mark V. So that brings me back to the point of the A7S III being a tech demo. It was just to show what Sony can do, because this sensor has given birth to all of these other cameras. And these other cameras have, because Sony has chosen to not support, in a way, the A7S III, it was just to show, hey, this is what we can do. In case you're wondering what a definition of a tech demo is, let me read it to you. A tech demonstration, or tech demo, is also known as a demonstrator model. It's a prototype, a rough example, or otherwise incomplete version of the conceivable product or future system, put together as proof of concept with the primary purpose of showcasing the possible application, feasibility, performance, and method. So that's exactly what this A7S III has become after all of this time. There's no way I would recommend the A7S III to somebody who's solely into video at this moment. No, especially not with the 3.0 update that came on the FX3 just last week. I mean, that is where you go if you're shooting video. Now, to be honest with you, had not the FX3 update come out last week, I wouldn't have recommended the FX3. In fact, even for me personally, with the way Sony has handled this whole thing, personally, I've said to myself already that, listen, as soon as I need to get another video camera, I'm probably not going to go with Sony, because they're not supporting their cameras, or at least I don't feel like they are. This FX3 update is a step in the right direction, and I'm hopeful that they'll do the same thing for the A7S III and the A1. And I understand that you're not going to get all of the features, but the things that make sense, that actually should be on this camera, you know, should be on the camera, and if they make sense, why not, right? Same processor, so there's no limitation there. Same capability, so there's no limitation there. And why not? It makes more sense that some of these features are actually available on a camera like the A7S III, like variable shutter, focus breathing compensation, the ability to turn on and off eye detection while actually recording. Like, that's useful stuff, you know what I mean? I get that whole AI stuff on the A7R Mark V is not gonna be there, and the ZV-1 has their own product features to make that camera line special, but those core things, animal detection and video, all that stuff, like, that should be on the A7S III. I don't know why it's not. As it is now, today, as I'm filming this video, I'm not saying that the A7S III is a bad camera. It's a really terrific camera. And I can't be too upset that I've been sold a tech demo without actually knowing it, because it's paid for itself off a number of times. So to that extent, I'll say it all worked out. But at the same time, it's kind of upsetting to see that that's the way that Sony handled this run. I get it. They released an incredible camera, and in many ways, if they've given us all of these features, would people have went out and bought the other cameras if they gave everything to us in the A7S III? Maybe, maybe not. At the end of the day, you know, the software support is a big deal, especially when you're paying as much money as you are for these systems. So I'll leave it at that. A7S III, great camera. Get the FX3, as Sony seems to be moving on to support that. But the way I feel about this is, you know, A7S III, tech demo. Check you guys out next time. Peace.